Greetings, Object Coder. Thought we could just talk about the BST for a quick minute here. Maybe just navigation perspective. Um, First off, I want to mention one thing: public info versus private info. We always want to think what's public. We want to get that exactly right. Kind of like if we're giving a phone number to somebody, we don't want to give them the wrong phone number unless we don't want them to call us. But we have to give them the exact right phone number, right, so they can call us. Same with the coding headers. Headers are the public headers, right? Those are public, so somebody's going to call those basically. Those like instance methods, they're going to call them just like a phone number, so they have to hit that exactly. So we want to get the spelling right, the type, capitalization right, and everything. Get those exact. And let's get into now the BST challenge. So the BST challenge, we would really code this, I would say, in a two-phase approach. And one phase would be the object structure, getting the foundation, kind of like the foundation of a building, right? And then secondly, behaviors, the instance methods, right? So object structure. And there is something here in the chapter, actually. If you go into tips, you'll see here a link that will show you how to code and give you examples. And there's actually another video on that as well. But to give you examples on how to do this coding, including testing. Testing is huge. Really huge, really huge, really huge. So what are we talking about when we say about object structure again? Let's dive in a little bit deeper and into this required headers. So we want IVARs, and we want constructors, and we want the class header for those three. Well, and the order would be the class header, the IVARs and the constructor headers. Let's take a look at what we mean by that. Go back to our class here, required headers. So it's given to us over the name, BST here. That's the name we have to use. In Java, it would be something like that. Then we're given actually the constructor headers. So we just would use these. They're actually just provided and given to us. So we have to use those exactly, just like the phone number analogy. And then when we get into, that's phase one then. And then we would code these actually. We would code these up, this part of it up, which basically means just coding the constructors up and the IVARs up. And then we actually run a test against that, I would, to see if it's constructible. And we might very well run into an exception and fix it. But then we have a starting point. We have our foundation. Okay, phase two, we would get into the behaviors of the object or the instance methods, right? And by now I think we know how that is driven. That is driven by what we know as the ADT. And if it's not an ADT, it's going to be some kind of list of methods. But in our case, we have an ADT. So if we look at that, it tells us exactly how we can start. We can actually just copy this code, or if you're using an IDE, some IDEs will auto-populate it, in Java anyway, if you're using the interface. But it tells us we can use these methods exactly. We can just code these in with empty bodies initially, and then start to code them based on the descriptions. All right, so that would be that starting point. The other thing I just want to show you here in the what's really, really important too is, when we get back to that same concept, what is public info? Well, you can imagine, and I'm sure you know, that subdirectory names are public. That's public info. Your object user is going to tie into that BST directory. If it's called my BST or fun BST, it's going to break their code. It's going to crash. So we want to get those exact. All right, so there's just point out a couple other things that I think are valuable here. Sample test code. That's the most valuable, I would say, the MVP, if you will. And here's examples. You have JavaScript examples and Java examples of some test code, and that allows to show you how to construct. Basically, it shows you how to do a lot of the stuff here in one little test, beginning test. Search, construct, load, traverse, and such like that. What else do we have? And then just the normal stuff. Of course, if we're going to do a challenge, we want to know the concepts, so I would go through those. The important concepts are the node is the building block, searching and sorting and inserting obviously is important, and those functions we talked about. And the sample test code will be helpful, very helpful there too. Traversing is really important, and this sample test code actually gives an example of that as well. There is some a suggestion in the challenge that says do the the suggestion is to do the tree balance second. First get functionality working and then do the tree balance second. That's because the tree balance is a little bit complex to do, and it takes a little bit of tinkering. But the reason for the tree balance, obviously, is that if we don't balance the tree, like this is a balanced tree, meaning the height of all these branches is equal. This is an unbalanced tree. Basically, in this case, it's effectively a linked list. So obviously it wouldn't search very well, right? We'd have to search all the way to the end like we do for a linked list, whereas this search path is very quick. So that's kind of a quick navigation for you, and send over any questions and we'll talk to you soon.